Steve Johnson.
Yes, but I much prefer. I just can't stand holding this little phone up to my ear. And I can't use my hands when I'm talking. I can't really get into it.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Even if it's just a casual phone call, it's about right. I can just sit in my chair and lean back and do whatever I want.
And
so that's okay.
And you talk with your hands, and that is a sign of a true artist, because the words come out and they flow out of your hands and out of your fingertips, and then art is created.
Well, gee, that's why I'm holding a phone up to it.
When you're holding a phone, you're just not able to create. If you're holding a phone, this has been great. I met you a long time ago. I was at a party, and you were in a little group talking to some people, and I was just behind you and listening. I didn't know who you were at the time, and I thought, this guy, he's got something. I could tell just by the way you were talking and the things you were saying. And it wasn't even, I'm not even sure it was movie related or film related. It was just it was just in the way you were talking. I said, this guy is an artist. And then when I found out sometime later, that you were Steve Johnson, and I was like, wow, so I guess there was just, and then I found out so many people that had worked with you in the past, and you worked on some of my favorite films, and it's almost impossible to list everything that you've done. And certainly, I know you probably wouldn't want to sit here and do a rundown of all the things that you've worked on. But
hey, well, by the way, what party? Do you remember where it was or when?
I think it was either at a studio. Well, I know wherever it was. My memory is so bad because this was like 20 years ago or something.
Wow, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
They have better memory than I do.
Yeah, but then another thing.
I don't remember how old I am. I'm getting senile.
I think we're near the same age, but I just remember I was already shaving my head because I was losing my hair, and you had a full head of hair and it was long, and I was just like, I hated you instantly. So.
What I'm about to do today on my list is to go down and pick up a can of Rogaine because I'm getting a thin spot in the back of my neck. It's pissing me off.
I don't think there's enough Rogaine in the world for me to to fix my problem.
Well, I've been talking to Tom Savini. I went out with him because I'm here to join forces with him on his school here right outside of Pittsburgh. And so I was talking to him recently the other night, and he swears by it. Says it works great.
Really? Well, I worry about.
You might have to spend extra money on it though because it's pretty expensive. You got to cover your whole head. I don't know. It's gonna be like $100 a night.
Also, isn't it supposed to? It's actually supposed to help reduce high blood pressure, isn't it?
And cause erectile dysfunction.
Oh, it causes.
Which is always good.
It causes erectile dysfunction. So that so you get the hair.
You can have a full head of hair and not be able to have sex, or the other way around. No, I think that the oral type used to cause erectile dysfunction, but I don't think so anymore.
Oh, that's just what I need. See, because I always believed, and I'm sure it's false, but the more testosterone you have, the more hair loss you have, but I don't even know if that's true. But that's what balding guys wanted everyone to believe. We were virile.
Exactly. Well, that's interesting because a hairless head reminds someone of a child, a baby. I think it brings out motherly instincts, and so you would think women would be attracted to bald men.
Oh yeah. And the thing is, I don't know what it is, but I spend, I would say 80% of my time doing baby talk, and it's just sickening at my age. So, but girls,
excuse me, let me jump. There's an evolutionary reason for that as well. The reason that couples speak that way to each other, is it brings out the protective qualities in each other because you want to protect a child, and that is exactly the evolutionary reason why so many couples, almost all of them, have this weird code that they speak in. It's kind of childlike because it triggers that protective mechanism.
See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You were talking at that party. You were a font of information. It was just I was just like, wow, this guy is on the ball. He knows what's going on. When you were a kid, what were the things that you were reading? What were the things that you were sort of obsessed with?
I was totally obsessed. Long before Makeup Effects, I was obsessed with writers of science fiction, particularly and the Fantastic Blade Bradbury. I devoured all of his stuff. Even Isaac Asimov, I was reading way above my level, my grade level. And H.G. Wells, all the classics. I just couldn't get enough. I would, bedtime, the lights off, I would sneak a flashlight in that room and stay up half the night reading under the covers just to hide it from my parents.
I don't know if a lot of people know, but you were able to have a goal, attain it, you sort of master it in yourself, and then you find something else. You just keep moving from goal to goal and accomplishment to accomplishment. Now you're sort of going back starting all over again, doing influenced by all those writers in the past, and you're thinking like, I want to write. I want to be an author. What triggered that in you?
That's an interesting question. People ask how you got started in Makeup Effects. I know the answer to that, but now as a fledgling writer, I haven't been interviewed as a writer yet. So, what triggered wanting to write? I think it's the most creative thing you can do, short of having a child. Come on, that's two people get together and create a new life. That's probably the most creative. But to write, even more so than making a movie, because when you make a movie, there's a million people, and you've got to work with them, and the original script is never what the final film ends up being, and so there's a lot of disappointment, and it's a group of people getting together, blending their minds, creating images. However, when you write, you are the director. Of course, the writer, you're the producer, you're every actor, you're the production designer, you're the director of photography, you're the editor, because there's a lot of editing in writing. I believe that writers first and foremost are directors, because you direct the reader's attention to what you want. Secondly, you edit with punctuation. You edit with paragraph breaks. It's exactly like editing. Very much like filmmaking, except you're the god of this world. I can't think of anything more creative. And after having done it pretty much every day for the past 6 years, it's the most creative thing I've ever done. It's like now I can die happy, even if I never get published, but of course I know I will. The thing is, I now know what being a true artist is, because, Mozart brushed his fingertips against God's fingertips. And as a makeup effects artist, you can't really do that. You're trying, but you're also a technician and you're a craftsman. But when you write, and I've had the pleasure of meeting and working with a couple of my favorite writers. Stephen King, done several films with him, got to know him very well, and Clive Barker as well. And I just really, really enjoy the lifestyle of a writer as well. While you're writing, when you're in writing mode, you get to live inside your head, and it's a playground in there. It's like being a kid again. It does take a lot of discipline, though. Writing, you could look at it as being nothing more than disciplined thinking, but the act of writing, being able to get up every morning, put yourself into this world, lower yourself into a hypnotic state, which is almost like sleep. It's like waking dreaming, and just let this thing flow through you, and just, it's like running a marathon race. To write a novel is like running a marathon. It starts out easy. You're into it. It's fun. You've got plenty of energy. You get to the middle, you're starting to lose your energy, and then the hardest part is reaching the finish line. So it's a wonderful goal, and it's a test. It's a challenge.
To me, I always think the writer friends that I've had is just sort of an alchemy where you're taking dreams and thoughts, and you're able to make something textural out of it. And I was thinking, in the line of work that you from being a kid, being interested in special effects and making models, these creatures that you were creating, and these monsters were things that you were pulling out of your head. And then you get working on films where there's producers and directors and stuff, and there's a committee, because it's just film is like the collaborative art, so everyone has input, which is the saddest thing, because you have to please all. It seems to me that maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like you have to please all these other people, and you never actually.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like you never
absolutely.
get so like your original vision, it sometimes gets chiseled away at, but as a writer, and actually I'll go another way. I saw your film. It was a music video, and forgive me for not remembering what it was, but it was
the Moby and Baczynski piece, Ever Loving.
Oh, I love that. It is. I've watched that like a million times. To me, it is so moving. and I don't know I don't know if I can describe the characters that are in it, but it's almost like I don't know this. They're like paper that is forgotten paper. That just you know it flows around.
That's exactly the idea. Well, the images were the way I came up with that is there was an instrumental on Moby's album Play, and I used to drive in my car and listen to this thing. It was called Everloving, and it just welled up this orchestra of emotions inside me. And I thought, oh my God, this is more than a song. This is beyond any type of art that I've ever experienced. And I just started seeing images come to it, and then finally, I was introduced to a Polish artist, a painter and sculptor named Beksiński, and he's like the new H.R. Giger. H.R. Giger in the late 70s, when he blew up on the scene with Alien, everyone saw what his work was like the new, most different thing. I mean, his thinking is very alien. You can see that in his production design for the movie Alien. And but he's kind of ended up being a one-trick pony. I mean, all of this stuff was basically in the same palette. All this stuff was, it looked like it was his life's work is one huge 5 mile by 5 mile painting, and each individual one is just a close-up within that painting. Beksiński, however, is very different. He's not a one-trick pony. He does amazing things. I look at him as the new Giger. And so when I discovered him, I went crazy, and I thought this is the perfect pairing. And so for absolutely no other reason than I wanted to, I made that short film, putting his imagery, his palette of colors, and his feel to Moby's music.
It's just beautiful. It also in watching the video, the first time I saw it, well, actually a couple times, I got really emotional because all these thoughts of decay of the flesh, and how we are just paper. We can just dissolve away, and then like what happens. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I was just thinking, all these thoughts came to mind. Like, what happens to love? If one person goes away and dies, is the love still there? And is it does it go on? It was just a beautiful.
Well, that's amazing that these thoughts came to you, because my goal was that, and I think any artist worth a salt goal is to not dictate what the painting should mean, to not dictate what the lyrics of the song should mean, to not dictate what the forms of the sculpture should necessarily mean, but to have in mind a general idea of the metaphor or whatever it is you want to express, and then leave it open to interpretation so that the viewer then makes it very personal. And that's when art transcends, when it means something to the viewer. When it's very personal to the viewer.
What, am I anywhere close to being to that interpretation?
Listen, everyone's right.
Right.
I mean, that's the beauty of it. Everyone's right. You came up with some really good ideas, and yes, there are all themes there, absolutely. But I'm glad that it kind of initiated those thoughts in you and ignited them, because that's the fuse I wanted to light. I mean, those kind of deep thoughts about reality and life and death, and I can tell you what it means to me, but it doesn't matter what it means to me. What matters is what it means to you.
Well, can you describe how you created those creatures? I mean, it's not computer generated, but is it?
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's it's an organic sort of. Is it okay for you to mention how that?
Yeah, no, not at all. I don't know if the listeners will get it, but what I did is what I really wanted to do is I wanted to fuck with the way the human mind perceives images. And normally we're upright. We walk vertically. We walk in a dry environment. We walk forward. So what I did was I shot everything in reverse, first of all. So if the character was supposed to move from left to right, I would perform it from right to left. Then I inverted that, and I shot it upside down, meaning I put the character upside down and reversed the motion. And then I actually shot everything underwater and then composited it into a dry environment. So it looks as if it's in a dry environment, but how the hell is it moving that way? Because puppets were made of very, very, very thin, like paper-thin foam rubber. And you can imagine how the water itself would animate them. So mostly the animation came from the water itself.
That when I'm
it was really difficult. I mean, landing the Mars Curiosity rover on the surface of the red planet had to be easier than getting this puppet's arm to move, right instead of left. Because you got to shot was probably 12 to 16 elements. Oh. So if one element didn't work, once we composited them, we had to get back to the drawing board.
I always sort of prompt friends and the listeners to seek out that video and watch it. I think it's very powerful, and you can tell just by looking at it that it had to be difficult. And you're trying to create emotion, or you're trying to show emotion through this material. What was is it? Is it paper? What is the material?
No, it's actual very, very thin foam rubber.
Okay, well. Paper. It looks great because it has the wrinkles, and it reminds me of another thought is like one time I was in a really bad state. I'd had my mother had died, and it was a long bout of cancer, and I was in the car, and I was all by myself, and then I was just devastated, and there was this plastic Walmart bag that was caught in this whirlwind, and it was going around. And just that image of this white thin gossamer kind of plastic just like, oh, that's I started attaching signs to it like, oh, it's it's my mom, which would be the last thing my mom would be a Walmart trash bag, but just the idea of this thing flowing around, and it seemed alive for something that was an inanimate thing, and it was just it went on and on. It was just like this beautiful moment that changed my state. I was in a very bad mood, but this thing came along, and had nothing of it, no substance or anything, but somehow my interpretation of it lifted me out of my despair. And I always think that. So I guess that's why that video of yours, means so much to me, because it does sort of remind me of that motion.
There you go. So I'm talking about making things personal by that, because that's what artists do. They you don't have to make notes if you watch a movie and you see, wow, that's cool. I can do a character like this. You don't have to make notes if you read a book and go, wow, that's a great turn of phrases, because you soak it in. I mean, they say there's nothing new. They say talent borrows, genius steals, and it's really true, because you are your art is just a matter of all of the things that you've soaked up. You fill your well by reading books, by going to botanical gardens, by going to museums, by meeting people, and it all gets mixed up in your subconscious somehow, and it just flows back out when you're ready to create. That's why really good artists are, I believe, should be the most alive and active people out there, because you can't pull water from an empty well, can you?
No.
You got to keep filling the well, and you get more and more, interesting things in your mind, and then it comes out as a more and more interesting piece of art.
Yeah, it reminds me of acting a bit. Of watching like Dustin Hoffman in interviews, or even Anthony Hopkins, where their emotion is so close. Their emotions are so close to the surface that they can just sort of tap into it, like as if it were a keyboard. Like, I need this emotion, and it's so close, and they can pull it right there. Do you think what genre? I mean, if it's okay, what genre of writing are you doing? Is it?
Well, it's interesting. No publisher or agent would ever want to hear that I'm doing cross genre stuff, but that's kind of what it is. I did just complete my memoir, which is insanely funny. It's got a huge section presented as a graphic novel. It's got a couple of, it opens and closes in script format, and it's just outrageous. Some parts of it are meaningful and moving, and it is a tale of redemption, of course. That's what people want to read, and that's what I've lived through. But also, it's funnier than hell. There's a lot of Dave Eggers in it, the guy that wrote and won the Pulitzer, or actually was the second up for the Pulitzer for his novel, his memoir, A Heartbreaking Work of Staggering Genius.
Yeah.
It's also got a lot of Dave Sedaris in it, because he's a huge hero of mine. But there's also King in it, there's Poe in it, there's Bradbury in it, there's also, like I said, you soak it up and you spit it back out. So I'm really pleased with that, because it's almost like this huge book of short stories of events from my life that are tied together with the Kurt Vonnegut Slaughterhouse-5 time travel device, which I'm really pleased with. But the other book I just finished, and probably everything I ever will write, is a piece of psychological horror, I guess you'd have to say. But again, like Stephen King writes psychological horror, it's really character-driven. And the horror elements are kind of below the surface, but they're definitely there. And of course, 30 years of making monsters, I have my guilty pleasures, and I will put creatures occasionally in what I'm writing, but they're creatures in people's minds. There's never like a real monster. It's like, it's difficult to describe until you read it, but the worst fear we all have is dying or going crazy or something like that. So I kind of try to play on those kind of things. And what's really interesting about it is creating a monster sculpting with words.
Wow. Now, didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more effective that way, because when you write, you've got a handshake agreement with the reader. And the toughest thing you can do as a writer is figure out how to walk that tightrope where you don't give the reader too much information. You don't give them too much detail, because that's the whole thing about reading. The entertainment of reading is to create it in your own mind. So you've got to learn how to reach out to the keyboard and allow people just enough so that they can make it, again, personal. And so that's the way I'm creating monsters these days.
The creative life, the life of an artist. And it reminds me of, one of my favorite books used to be the artist, or the spirit of the artist, or art spirit, I think is what.
I think you may mean the artist's way.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that is it. And I was thinking how.
Okay, well, let me tell you something before you tell me what you're going to say. That is what pushed me on the path to writing.
Wow.
I read that book, did all the exercises, and she says, I can't remember the author's name, but she says in the beginning, whatever it is that's inside you that wants to come out, if you do this book, if you take this book seriously and do the exercises in it, it will come out. And it did. I have her to thank for this.
Wow. Yeah, I used to...
For ruining my career and living the life of a pauper. Thanks a lot.
Well, I had taken a workshop that, I think she was going on tour, and I can't remember. I think I want to say her last name was Cameron, I believe. I'm not really sure.
Julia Cameron.
That's right. Yeah, and I was living in Texas, and the workshop kind of ruined me in a way, because it made me, what I was doing at the time is like, wow, this just is not what my, soul, this is not what I want to express, and I never really found what it was, but it put me on the path of just trying to be open, and if there was something that wanted to be free, I would be open to letting it come out. Your work and your life is really influenced me, and it's and I think we're the same age, but I think about the conventions and the kids, reading Fangoria and how it. There was a time, where nobody knew who the effects artist was. Nobody knew, they were invisible. The person that's invisible is now visible, and that's got to be tough, because I think about it at the time, like Ray Harryhausen, where it was all about mystique. There were no photographs of him while he was working. He was like the magician, or was it Jordan Belson in San Francisco doing the effects for The Right Stuff, where nobody was allowed to come into the studio while he was conjuring these things.
The funny thing about it these days is that, so many kids come to conventions, and now that I'm at the Savini school, and they're like, oh my God, Ghostbusters is my favorite movie ever. They weren't even born when Ghostbusters came out.
Wow.
I mean, there's a whole new wave of kids out there, and I think that monsters and special effects, and even old school special effects, like what I used to do, are really coming back into vogue. I believe there's kind of a nostalgia for it now. It's amazing. There's conventions every weekend all over the country with these goth kids running around with fistful of their parents' money looking for something to spend it on.
Yeah.
And they since I stopped doing effects, excuse me, I kind of thought for a long time. I closed my company in 2006. Went to Costa Rica for a year and wrote my first novel. Wow. In a treehouse in the jungle with monkeys hopping around. And I thought, well, my career is over. It's finished. My imprint, my legacy will be forgotten. But it's far from the case.
Yeah.
Because those movies I did in the 80s and 90s are the archetypal makeup effects movies. Maybe they will never be anymore. And I think about it this way. Well, Jack Pierce has been dead for how long?
Right. Yeah.
And he's still remembered. And so I did for 30 years do a lot of work. And I think that it's definitely time to move on and do some other stuff. But I'm happy that the kids still remember I am.
When Dick Smith's birthday, when his 90th birthday was coming up, I said, I'm going to do what I always wanted to do as a kid, but never had the money to do it. I'm going to take his course. So on his birthday, I ordered, the makeup course, and
That was a nice gift.
yeah, I haven't started it yet. I was going to wait until the first and then just go into it. But I just really wanted while he's here to just honor him and try to do something like that. And I'll
Yeah, that's a great thought. You'll both benefit from it.
yeah, and then I watch you on the Stan Winston School of Arts videos. There was a tutorial of you making monsters with basically trash bags like we were talking about before, and
Right.
there was this one moment that I thought was so great where it was in The Shining for the Stephen King TV movie, and Mick Garris, and there was a scene where the woman's decaying, the coming out of the tub, that you were using thin plastic and shaving cream, and I
Yep.
thought, how brilliant is that? I mean, and then there was the moment where you were saying that Rick Baker wanted you to do some stuff for Men in Black, and you said, "Hey, I want to use this plastic. I want to use this stuff," and it was just kind of like, "Hey, I'm giving you thousands and thousands of dollars, and you want to use trash." But it was so effective, and it was so brilliant. I thought the way where the woman in The Shining was getting out of the tub, the way it was like it was created. It was like it created itself. I know that's not really the case, but so much of the work was.
It is actually.
Yes, so much of the work was natural.
Well, we always try to think out of the box, and my general reputation was that I'm difficult to work with because I could get very hot-headed because I wanted to do things my way.
Yeah.
I thought I was right, and it became very difficult sometimes to listen to a team of executives ruin the work. But the other thing about my reputation was that we were very expensive, and the reason we were expensive is because I tried to set up a think tank where my lead artist people that had been with me for many years, we could just read each other's minds. So we were ahead of the game already. But instead of just starting the project and sculpting it and molding it and casting it and seaming it and painting it, we would spend days, weeks, months sometimes going into just crazy corners and dark alleyways trying to come up with techniques that were very nonlinear and that no one would ever think of because they would never spend the money just on research and development. And that's what we kind of did because, for me, I wanted to keep it exciting for myself because I figured, look, I've seen it all, and if it's exciting to me, it'll certainly be exciting to the audience.
It reminds me of of Jackson Pollock, doing these, he going into this area where where no one had really gone, but then he would lay these newspapers down to flatten out the paint, and then he would throw these newspapers away. And I can't remember the other artist, but the other artist was taking the newspapers that was the negative of Jackson Pollock's work, and he was framing and making art out of that, and in watching the Stan Winston stuff, I was thinking like, maybe I'll take after I finish the Dick Smith, maybe I'll try to do some of the Stan Winston tutorials. But your stuff on there is really empowering, and I behoove anyone to just go and watch stuff from the YouTube channel that they post with the interviews with you, because it really is, to me, alchemy, and it's empowering because it's like, it reminds me of what Stanley Kubrick once said about if like the world would be such a better place if schools taught problem solving skills to kids, because because it's like, here is the objective, I want this to be this, now what can I do to make this happen? And you've got that down. You somehow at an early age figured out, okay, here's the goal. What can I do to get there? I can do this and this and this and this, and let me try this, and then what feedback comes back, and then till finally you've accomplished that goal. And then when you get it, it's like, okay, I've climbed this mountain. Let me look and see what other mountain I can climb. And you have recreated yourself so many times, and I just know that your writing this is going to be your thing, because it's your voice. No committee is telling you what to write, and it's
no, it will be, and I have the utmost confidence. But it's a tall mountain to climb, and I did create a very difficult challenge for this next phase in my career, because I might as well have said, so I'm 52 now, I might as well have said I want to become a 50-year-old rock star, because that's about how hard it is to make it big in the publishing industry. But the way I'm approaching writing is the same way I approached effects. I'm not doing what might be expected, but I'm also keeping it very accessible. But it's going to be a very new voice, and I think people are going to absolutely go nuts for it.
Wow.
And I'm writing in a way that it won't just, because we know there's 10,000 fans. Let's talk about my memoir for just 1 second.
Okay.
There's 10,000 fans that'll buy it tomorrow, right? We know that. But I'm reaching way beyond that. It's not aimed at just the fans. The fans will love it, but I'm going for soccer moms and scientists and lawyers and people all over the world, not just America even. I'm trying to be very, dare I say, Mark Twain, Stephen King, very accessible. And to talk about the stars that I've worked with, people love that. There's a lot of dirt in it. People love that. And there's a lot of humor in it. People love that. So I think, ultimately I get the right agent and publisher. This could be my Kitchen Confidential, which, if you don't know what that is, Anthony Bourdain, the celebrity chef who has a television show called, he was a huge television celebrity. His show is called Kitchen. The show is called No Reservations.
Right.
And he's now written like 7 best-selling books, but he was just a drug-addicted cook.
That's right.
Marijuana sauce-stained apron. That's hard to say.
It's easier if you type it.
In an underground kitchen somewhere in Manhattan.
Yeah.
He writes this book, and next thing you know, look what he had. So that's why I'm aiming high.
I would love to see that happen, and I fully believe that will happen. You're doing incredible work on these incredible films, and it's a collaborative effort. And everyone that has a job always has some jerk or some asshole, some dick that they have to work with, they have to put up with. And if I were to, if I say something that pops in, let me just say this one phrase and see if this reminds you of anything or anything pops into your mind. When I say the phrase "turkey in the straw," does that mean anything to you?
Does it mean anything to you?
Well, I heard this rumor years ago, and this is in fact.
Lest we get into this, yes, I tarred and feathered the first AD of a film called Highway to Hell. Is that what you're getting?
Yes, absolutely. I love that story. That story is legend. Can you?
Well, let me tell you though.
Okay.
He deserved it. And secondly, rumors, gossip. The truth is never good enough. So I'm sure what you heard is 10 times worse. But it was pretty bad. As a matter of fact, the entire production made me come back, and they just said they were going to ruin my career, and that what I had done was worse than what Hitler had done to the Jews. I mean, it was just a disaster.
Can you describe?
To this day, I feel warranted, and I feel perfectly fine in doing it.
Well, I mean, there have been, again, anyone can identify with someone. The job is hard enough, but you've got this guy that is just grinding everything, every joy out of the process when it, and for no reason. And
not respecting it. The big issue was not respecting it. So
yeah.
I thought, well, here's some instant karma for you, bitch.
Can you describe for the listeners?
Well, it's X-rated. Is it okay?
Yeah, I mean, I know pretty much everything, but it's fine. This is everything can go on this.
Okay, well, I'll try to make it quick. This guy was completely out of control on the set. He made our job so hard, and we were doing our best and doing a great job. And so when we wrapped, it was the day before principal photography wrap. We did our last effect, and myself and my lead guy got 2 12-inch dildos, and we took Hudson sprayers, which are insect sprayers. They have long metal tubes, and then you pump up for pressure. You pump up a tank for pressure. We didn't spray them with insecticide. In the tanks, we put a piss-colored watery material, and then one that was a little bit thicker, more like something else that might come out of one's penis. And so, in order to corral this asshole, we had Christy Swanson, the lead star of the movie, Buffy from the movie.
Yeah.
She was also the star of this movie. She hated him too. So we faked that it was her birthday, and we had craft service in them. They made a birthday cake, and so we had the entire crew at Rap stand around on the set and sing "Happy Birthday" to Christy. They handed her the cake. She walked over to him, hit him in the face with it.
Oh, great!
While he was blinded, we put a handcuff on one arm, which we had attached a winch to through the wall of the set. So we winched him back, tied it off so we couldn't move. And then my assistant went up on top of this wall about 10 feet above him and poured a 5-gallon bucket of green slime on him. And then we hit him from all sides with sisal fiber, which is the straw-like material.
Yeah.
And then, so as not to really kill him, we didn't take the key for the handcuffs. We had taken the key and rolled it up into an entire roll of gaffer's tape. So it would take hours to get the key out of it.
Well, and his hands are so slick, he's not going to be able to unwrap the key with any ease.
Well, we tossed the ball to him that had the key in it, and we said, "See you later. It's been nice working with you." And we took off. We had already changed hotels, so the production couldn't find us. And but they canceled our flight, and they found us.
Oh,
and,
no!
We had hell to pay the next day. We had hell to pay. Because think about it, somebody that's that much of a dictator, taken down like that doesn't sit well with them.
No,
I'm not proud of it, but I do feel warranted. But I was a kid, right?
Well, yeah, so many other people.
I was like 22 years old when I did that.
But
make mistakes.
The thing is so many people have a situation like that they never do anything about, and the years go by, and it's like a bully on a school ground, and you think, oh, I wish I could have stood up to him, but here's a situation where you did, and that story has been passed around. I've heard that story, even just recently, and I think the people love that. I mean, it's legend, and
We started with this great conversation about art, and we deteriorated into jerking off on the first AD.
Right.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's an arc that this show takes. But I just wanted to thank you so much for spending time with me.
Well, can I say one last thing about the Tom Savini School? The Tom Savini School is really cool. What we're doing here, because Tom is probably one of the closest things besides Rick Baker that this industry has to a household name.
Yeah.
He's done absolute classics. He influenced me in my career. I'm a big fan of his. Now he's acting. He's moving on as well. But with this school, the reason I'm teaming up with him is what we're doing is they came to me and they said, look, we want to fill in a hole and we'd like your involvement. Take a look at our curriculum and tell us what you think may be missing. So I took a long, hard look at it and I thought, well, what's missing? No school does this. This is now the only school that does it. Makeup effects school, particularly, is teach kids how to work on set. And so I thought, well, how can we do that? Because when I was a kid, when I first went to California and I was over at Rick Baker's house one day, 1978, I said, "How's Rob Bottin doing?" Because I knew Rob had been working with Rick from '76. And he said, "He's off doing his own movie now." And I thought, my God, the kid's 18, 19. Yeah. How does he even know where to go? I know where to go when I work at a grocery store. I put my apron on and start sacking groceries. But when you show up on a set, how do you know who to talk to, where to go, when to do it, how to do it, what to do? And so I think it's a huge hole in the educational process of most of these schools is teaching kids how to behave on set. So I thought the best way to do that would be to take them through the whole process. And so I've written a script for a short film, and I've got my class, and it starts on February 7th, my birthday actually. Wow. And it's a 4-month class, and we're going to break down my script, budget it. I'm going to teach them how to work in the real world, open their own companies, run businesses. Then we're going to storyboard it, and we're going to work with the director, the fictitious director, production designer, physical effects people, wardrobe people, everything, just like it's a real movie. And then we're going to build this stuff. I'm going to assign the work to the kids, and it's going to be like they're my own crew.
Wow.
And then we're going to build it, and then we're going to actually shoot the movie, edit it, do post-production, so they have something really cool to take away and be proud of. And what's really cool about it is it's going to be like boot camp, because I'm not going to let these kids get away with anything. This work is going to look like it came out of my studio, circa 2004. It's going to be very top quality work, because I'm not going to stop until they do their best, and I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be really good for the kids, and it's going to give them a new weapon when they go out there that a lot of these kids going through these schools don't have.
I mean, who's to say?
And I get to make a short film.
Yeah, I mean, what if it's? I mean, it's very possible that this could be an incredible thing. I mean, it seems to me. I mean, and this might. Wow, I would love to get involved in something like that. I was just like, Give me a press pass or something. I mean, that would be incredible. I wish stuff like that had been around when I was, 17 or 18 or in the 20s or whatever. I'm at the age where I go, these kids today, they got it so easy. They got 500 channels of TV. And
everybody's vibrating it over here. Vibrating about it over here. They're really excited about it. As a matter of fact, they're building a new facility, a whole new building. We're outfitting it like a real, honest-to-God, state-of-the-art effects studio. So,
wow.
It won't be available for the first semester. I'm going to be working in Tom's building, but the second semester, which starts in June, we'll have our own facility. So that's pretty cool. Now, to look into, I don't know if they're publicizing this yet on the website, but if you just type in Douglas Education Center, you go to their website. Douglas Education Center has other schools as well. You have to go to the Tom Savini School of Special Makeup Effects.
Okay.
You could probably just type in Tom Savini School of Special Makeup Effects. And if it's there, the class I'm teaching is called From the Page to the Screen.
From the Page to the Screen with Steve Johnson. To me, this just sounds like a great opportunity for for someone. Like if I would imagine people will be coming from all over the world or all over the country.
Yeah, well, we're starting the press on it in January, so I think once people know about it, I think we'll have to hold them back.
Yeah, wow. So I would say...
Because this school is actually government accredited as well, so the kids can get a student loan, so it makes it a little bit easier for a lot of people.
Is there an age limit on who,
no.
restrictions?
No?
I want to do it. I think I want to do it. Get me a space.
Well, it's too late for this semester, but take a look at the website.
Man. Steve, thank you so much for talking with us, and I'm a huge fan of your work, and just thank you so much for doing the show with us today.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. This was actually an intelligent interview. You didn't ask me what my favorite movie was.
Oh, what is your favorite movie?
Now, stop it. There were new questions, things that actually I'm interested in talking about. That's why I wanted to do the interview in the first